Welcome. In this module, we'll consider the existing gaps in the ways we currently engage with young people that intervention like ambition seeks to address. We would now have to consider the question, why do we need interventions like ambition? And our ambassadors need to also engage and empower other people in the sustainable transition. In this module, students will understand the state of education for sustainable development, particularly for the youth. Students will also gain insight into the need for intervention programs on education for sustainable transition, such as ambition. How well do you think schools, especially high schools, have capacity to empower students to be active contributors and change makers for sustainable transition? We'll see as we proceed in the previous module. We saw that young people who are in secondary school and those undergoing undergraduate programs today will constitute the workforce by the end of the decade. This makes the empowerment of young people crucial as it enables them to be active and productive participants and influencers within their sphere. By empowering them to take ownership of sustainable transition, we can activate them to become positive catalysts for sustainable transition. Conventionally, schools and related learning centers help to develop the capacity of the youth for judgment and understanding of their role within their community as well as the wider world. This makes them critical in empowering and engaging young people. Despite this, outside gaps still exist that prevent young people within education systems from being fully empowered with competencies needed for sustainable transition. Taking, for instance, Education for Sustainable Development, ESD, and specific elements in climate change education. A report by UNESCO examined the national curriculum frameworks of 100 countries and find that almost 50% of them had zero reference to the crucial subject of climate change. Of other 50% that mentioned climate change, the depth of their coverage typically left much to be desired. Again, an in-depth examination of 20 countries' profiles pertaining to climate change education shows that the predominant focus, amounting to 90%, were directed at the elementary and secondary school education level. In contrast, fewer countries have established comprehensive frameworks to promote climate change education in technical and vocational training, institution of learning, and teacher training programs. The latter statistics portray the challenge of teachers' capacity to deliver ESD and climate change education. According to UNESCO reports, although ESD inclusion in the curriculum is on the rise, there is a pressing need for further effort to integrate ESD into teacher education. Data from 2012 reveals that while 26% of reporting countries mandated climate change or environmental education, a mere 7% of the countries reported ESD as a mandatory component in teacher education. This substantial gap highlights the limited structure to build capacity of teachers to effectively deliver ESD integrated curriculum. As such, in the 2021 report, less than 40% of teachers examined felt self-assured in their ability to teach sustainability concepts like climate change. Moreover, approximately one-third believed they could effectively articulate the impact of climate change in their specific region or local area. To tackle the knowledge deficit related to climate change education, ESD, and the wider sustainable transition concepts within educational systems around the world, majority of which also lead young people, also are led by young people. The Fridays for Future, led by Greta Thunberg, is one of such movements that has been instrumental to raising awareness and acting as a clarion call to rally young people for climate action. However, great as these initiatives are in accelerating awareness, behavior, and lifestyle changes, there is often a missing link. Current climate change education and ESD initiatives often fail to provide theoretical knowledge of the challenges we face, and also fail to impact young people with the necessary skills and action competencies needed to drive transformational change. If that continues, we would have young people who would know who would be aware about everything about climate, but have no capacity to develop solutions at local and global levels. The large deficit in the capacity development for sustainable transition in school curricula highlight the need for special intervention programs such as Ambition and its consequent cascading program to empower young people with action competencies for sustainable transition. In summary, in this model, we have seen that we need to engage and empower young people for sustainable transition because they are positive catalysts for change. However, present gaps in knowledge framework in the education systems of many countries and the reduced emphasis on necessary skills for the future in the current intervention fail to fully equip young people to lead sustainable transition. As such, we need to decipher new approaches to close the gaps within our own intervention. And this is what we're doing for the rest of this web series. As a short activity to learn more about this subject, consider carrying out desktop research on the level of integration of education for sustainable development and climate change education in your country within the school curricula. Also examine the capacity of high schools in your country to teach education for sustainable development and climate change education. As quiz as discussion hints, would you like to consider if there are elements of sustainability education in your country in the curriculum, and also discuss the questions with two other colleagues. Think back on your exposure so far to sustainability issues with both educational systems and civil society advocacy. What skills have you been able to acquire that align with the skills needed for sustainable transition? Here are some of the related resources that will suggest that you might want to look into, to explore, to learn more about these subjects. Thank you.